The Indigo Mystic.
Hello everybody, it's the Indigo Mystic. Toodaloo!
The woman in question is Jessica Worsham, a 43-year-old mother of two living in Hushtan, Georgia. Ever since she was young, Jessica believed she wasn't like other people, convinced she had psychic abilities that most wouldn't be able to understand. That belief eventually led her to create a YouTube channel called The Indigo Mystic, which was meant to connect with others who felt the same way. When the channel first appeared in April 2013, the tone of her content was mostly upbeat and positive, something that would later completely shift. For a long time, Jessica lived as an unemployed single parent, raising her two children while struggling financially. Because of this, finding a stable place to live was a constant challenge until 2019, when family friends stepped in and offered them a temporary solution. They allowed Jessica and her kids to stay in a house they were trying to sell, completely free of charge, until it found a buyer. What was supposed to be temporary ended up lasting nearly 3 years, meaning they lived there the entire time without paying rent. It should have been an ideal situation, but when it finally came to an end, Jessica did not react with appreciation. Instead, she pushed back against being asked to leave and refused to move out. The situation escalated to the point where she took these same friends to court, a case she ultimately lost, forcing her out of the home. This moment is widely seen as a turning point in her mental state, as she became convinced that everything was part of a larger plan to ruin her life, placing blame on the legal system and the judge for leaving her homeless.
You used to be a good person, didn't you, Benji? You did. You used to actually have the desire for justice. God knows about you. That's why you're scared. And you know who I am, don't you? All your little friends and buddies know exactly who I am and what I'm about. Well, since this is just for Benjamin Green.
From that point on, the Indigo Mystic channel changed completely. Rather than focusing on spirituality or positivity, Jessica wiped all of her previous uploads and began posting content centered around the people she felt had wronged her.
So, you want to attack me, huh? That's fine. Just get ready. And when I said karma was coming for you, I meant it.
From there, her videos became increasingly hostile, all while another legal battle was quietly approaching. After the first court ruling, Jessica and her children no longer had a stable place to stay and began moving from one home to another, relying on others for temporary shelter. This constant instability, combined with her worsening mental condition, led her to frequently argue with the very people who were helping her, something that was repeatedly captured and uploaded to the Indigo Mystic channel.
You don't want none of me, I promise. Oh yeah, I do. Fantastic!
And he's coming over.
That's what am I doing?
Get
Get the fuck out of my face! She hit me first.
Stop it.
Get the fuck out of here! I'm just trying to get scared.
What made these situations even more disturbing was the role her children played. She had them film these confrontations so she could later upload them and present herself as the victim, when in reality, it's clear the children were the ones suffering the most.
I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen next. Where are we gonna go?
The fear in their voices, along with the distress of knowing they were about to lose yet another place to stay, is genuinely heartbreaking. This was their everyday life, and eventually people began to notice. Concerned by what the children were going through, their biological father, Sean, attempted to gain custody so he could provide them with a more stable environment. He, along with many others, believed Jessica was not in a position to properly care for them. This wasn't just due to the unstable living conditions or her increasingly aggressive behavior, but also because her mental state appeared to be deteriorating. She began posting videos claiming she was being gang-stalked.
All the stalking, all the gang stalking by my family and by these certain police factions needs to stop. I'm aware of you, honey. Don't you see me packing every time I go outside? And the more you come for me, the worse it's gonna be for you.
On top of that, she said she had placed hexes on the judges.
You're in regret, right? Scared, can't sleep at night, up all night. Maybe having ulcers. Yeah. That's right. If you only knew who I was. Hope those dreams are making you feel good. You're gonna regret ever getting yourself involved.
Her claims became more extreme over time, including accusations that the judges were communicating with her telepathically and even carrying out child sacrifices in secret.
I know you're watching me, and I know you're scared, and you should be. Dingledorf, he's too scared. He's too scared to even try to communicate with me telepathically, but you're scared, aren't you, Benji? What about the children? And you know what I mean. Those that you've sacrificed for your glory. Because it's really hilarious, and it's going to be even more hilarious when my plan falls into place.
By this stage, Jessica seemed completely disconnected from reality, and it was becoming clear that her children's well-being was being neglected. Everything reached a breaking point on September 14th, 2021. On that day, Jessica was scheduled to appear in court for a custody hearing regarding her children, something she briefly mentioned in a video uploaded just hours beforehand.
I'm actually going to court today against some people that are trying to take my children from me. The same people that took my home from me. the Jackson County court system. I really do feel more sorry for them and what's going to happen to them than me and my children, because my children aren't going anywhere. Anyway, if you don't see a video pop up in the next couple days, I probably got arrested, because I'm not going to back down.
When she arrived, instead of going inside, she had her children film another confrontation as she refused to enter the courtroom.
My name is the Indigo Mystic. I'm sorry, Jessica Worsham. You guys have already taken our home from us, and you denied us help when we were being attacked several times. They refused to go inside. So if you could just relay that information for me, I would greatly appreciate it. We stand in solidarity as sovereign individuals, and we're not going to tolerate this injustice.
I don't know where the justice in this world went, in this country, but it is not here, fellas and ladies. Not here. I'm not going to have my children taken from me.
This behavior only reinforced the concerns of the judge, and the hearing proceeded without her. As a result, Jessica temporarily lost custody of her children. It was explained that she could regain custody once she secured stable housing and sought help for her mental health, and that the decision was made in the children's best interest. However, Jessica refused to accept this outcome. She had no intention of giving up her children and instead decided to take matters into her own hands. Immediately after the ruling, Jessica Worsham and her children disappeared. Not entirely, though, as Jessica deliberately ignored the court order, taking her children and going on the run. While most would expect her to stay hidden, she did the exact opposite, continuing to upload videos online. This time, she openly threatened the judges she held responsible and dared them to try and take her children away.
They're mine. Mine, 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 M-I-N-E, mine. And I'll do anything, including lay my life down for them. And if you come after me, I'm just telling you right now, it ain't gonna go down pretty. No kinds of pretty is gonna come out of anything. And that's not a threat, that's a promise.
Her anger didn't stop there, as she also began targeting Sean, the children's father.
You'll never have our love again. You'll never, ever see them again.
Her behavior continued to spiral downward, leading to increasingly disturbing actions. One particularly unsettling moment involved her having the children call him and tell him exactly how much they hated him and that they never wanted to see him again.
Isabella, do you want to be with Sean?
No.
Do you love him?
No.
Well, how do you feel about him?
I'm disgusted.
Hi, Sean. My daughter's trying to talk. How do you feel about him?
I think you're disgusting, and that's my opinion. That's my opinion and not hers, so... I mean, seriously though, we're disgusted. We hate you.
This is what you've done to your family.
We really hate you, so why don't you just shut the hell up?
Throughout the call, she can be heard pushing them to say even harsher things. Regardless of their relationship with their father, this is an incredibly harmful and traumatic situation for children to be placed in. And things only continued to escalate on the Indigo Mystic channel as she began talking about owning a gun, which she referred to as Betty.
I was in there buying some ammo, some critical defense bullets for Betty. You know, because we gotta treat her right, you know.
This would eventually lead to the following clip.
Just for any of y'all that might want to get wild, you know. This is Betty. Alright? Get a good look. Any of y'all that think y'all might want to come at me, I got something waiting for you.
It was clear that the situation was spiraling toward a breaking point, which brings us to November 3rd, 2021, when two of the most chaotic and disturbing videos ever uploaded appeared on the channel.
I swear I'll call the cops on you. I'll get you away from that.
Stop! Oh my God, Sandra! Maya, get your phone! Get your phone, Maya! Hold your phone on their faces. On their faces.
You need to get out of this house. You need to get out of this house. You want me to call the cops and get you out of this house?
At that time, Jessica was once again staying with another family. That night, two members of the household got into both a verbal and physical argument, resulting in an older man being pushed to the ground. As the conflict unfolded, Jessica inserted herself into the situation, escalating it further by shouting at the family. Eventually, they lost patience and demanded she leave, with one of the younger men even calling the police. In response, the children ran upstairs in fear, believing they were about to lose yet another place to stay. Meanwhile, Jessica remained downstairs, continuing to argue as they waited for the police to arrive. When officers showed up, she was standing at the door to meet them, holding Betty in her hand. Noticing what was happening, the children did what they had been taught and grabbed the camera.
Oh, please! Please stop!
From just out of view, they began recording as Jessica suddenly opened fire, leading to a full shootout with over a dozen shots being fired. The entire event was captured as the children recorded helplessly, with the rest of the footage showing their reaction, which is too disturbing to include. When it was over, Jessica had fatally shot 49-year-old Deputy Lena Marshall, a mother of three who tragically died on the 18th anniversary of her own son's death. Jessica Worsham herself was found dead in the doorway. Since that incident, the Indigo Mystic channel still exists, but only as an empty shell, as all of its videos have been removed, almost as if nothing ever happened. In reality, the channel had one of the darkest trajectories ever seen on YouTube, ending with one of the most disturbing uploads imaginable. Immediately after the shooting, before they even knew what had happened to their mother, the children uploaded a video titled, "My Mom is Dead, I Think," before the entire channel was wiped just days later. Harley Dilly.
Hey guys, what's up? It is Harley Dilly.
At first glance, this channel, much like others we've covered before, doesn't seem particularly noteworthy. It's run by a young boy named Harley Dilly, and mainly served as a place where he could upload videos about his everyday life, the games he enjoyed, and occasionally even live stream. On the surface, everything about the channel feels completely ordinary. However, when you start paying closer attention, it slowly becomes clear that something darker was happening behind the scenes, something that would become impossible to ignore when, in December of 2019, Harley Dilly suddenly disappeared.
But first, a heartbroken mother waiting for her missing son to walk back into her arms.
Tonight marks 7 days since the disappearance of 14-year-old Harley Dilly.
Like many kids his age, Harley had a strong interest in video games such as Roblox and Madden, and he had been uploading videos of himself playing them since he was around 10 years old. As time went on, he began sharing more about his personal life, talking about his hobbies, school experiences, and day-to-day activities. Even then, nothing immediately stood out as alarming. But over time, a pattern begins to surface throughout these videos, and that is the fact that Harley and his mother would often get into arguments.
So yesterday, well actually today, my mom and I got into an argument because I didn't want to walk to school. Because I live like 4 blocks and it's like 34 degrees.
This is something he references multiple times in his earlier uploads, and on its own, it doesn't seem unusual. Most kids argue with their parents, and it's possible that Harley was simply using his channel as a way to vent. However, any assumption that this was just normal family conflict would quickly be challenged in October of 2018, when Harley hosted a now-deleted livestream titled, "I'm Scared."
What's up? It is Harley Dilly. Probably one of my worst days in my life. My mom wanted me to go with her to go get a friend. And I said, I don't want to. I have work to do, so I want to go home. We argued for about a good 5 minutes. Then she snapped. She said she was going to call police, and she said she already did. And she locked me out of the house, so right now I'm outside. Yep, the house is locked. I haven't ate anything, and I still haven't even got to get my work done. My mom's gone. She won't answer the phone. I legit was scared.
In that video, Harley can be seen standing outside in the cold, explaining that after an argument, his mother had threatened to call the police on him. On top of that, she had locked him outside the house without food or water on a freezing October night. Clearly, this is not a healthy way to handle the situation, especially considering that Harley was only 12 years old at the time, and the punishment seemed far too extreme for what appeared to be a minor issue. The entire situation raises serious concerns, made even worse by what Harley says next.
I just want you guys to wish me good luck, because the future could hold bad things for me. I don't want to find out what that could mean.
The dynamic between Harley and his mother comes across as deeply unhealthy in this video, and it wasn't an isolated incident. Later information would reveal that his mother had called the police on him 5 different times, one of those instances occurring when he was just 10 years old. Hearing that, you might assume Harley was simply a difficult child. In reality, however, Harley had ADHD and high-functioning autism, both of which can lead to hyperfixation, emotional outbursts, and behavioral challenges that likely contributed to these conflicts. In situations like this, Harley would have had very little control over his reactions, meaning it was up to his mother to understand and help him manage these behaviors. Instead, it appears she chose to punish him. It's also important to note that there's no clear indication these outbursts were violent or physical. Rather, they seem to have been behavioral struggles. The tension in the household didn't stop there either. In one video, Harley's father, Marcus, can be heard yelling in the background at both Harley's mother and his 4-year-old sibling after the child spilled a drink.
God damn it!
My dad's being an asshole right now.
As time went on, these small but concerning moments would occasionally appear, though for the most part, they went unnoticed by viewers. In 2019, Harley created a new channel called Harley Dilly 2.0, where he continued posting similar content. That continued until December 10th, 2019, when he uploaded what appeared to be a normal Madden mobile gameplay video. In hindsight, however, that video would become one of the darkest on the channel, not because of anything shown in it, but because it would be the last video he ever uploaded. 1 week later, on December 19th, 2019, Harley complained of a stomachache and asked his mother if he could stay home from school. She refused, telling him to, quote, "get your ass to school." So, he left the house and began walking towards school like he always did, except this time, he never arrived. As night fell, it became clear that Harley hadn't shown up at school and wasn't back home either. To make matters worse, it was another freezing cold night. Despite this, his parents did not appear overly concerned, waiting until the next morning to report him missing. Harley's mother, Heather, later made a now-deleted Facebook post asking for help finding her son. But as days turned into weeks, there was still no sign of the 14-year-old. As search efforts intensified and the case gained national attention, people began discovering Harley's channel, including videos like the I'm Scared livestream. This led many to question whether his parents could have been involved, as the content suggested possible neglect or abuse. This suspicion was further fueled by the delay in reporting him missing, as well as the harsh message his mother had given him that morning. Others, however, believed Harley had simply run away while pretending to go to school. Either way, authorities had no clear leads, as he had seemingly disappeared without a trace. That changed on January 13, 2020. On that day, police searched an empty house across the street, a property that was not currently being lived in and was mainly used as a summer home. Inside, they discovered clothing that belonged to Harley, including his jacket, sweatpants, a single sock, and a pair of slip-on shoes. His glasses were also found inside. It was clear he had been there, but aside from those items, there was no sign of him anywhere. It wasn't until investigators decided to check the chimney that they made a horrifying discovery. Inside the narrow, confined space, they found Harley's decomposing body lodged within the tight walls. Later reports concluded that he had died from compressive asphyxiation, a condition where breathing is restricted due to pressure on the body. According to investigators, it is believed that Harley attempted to enter the locked house, knowing it was empty, by climbing onto the roof and going down the chimney. Next to the house was a telephone pole with ladder-like steps, which he likely used to get up there. Once on the roof, he attempted to slide down the chimney, which had an opening of just 9 by 13 inches. Partway down, he became stuck, with only enough room to remove some of his clothing in an attempt to create more space. Unable to free himself, and now wearing minimal clothing, he was left trapped in the freezing cold with virtually no chance of survival, as there was no one inside to hear him calling for help. It was there, inside that chimney, that Harley slowly suffocated. It's an incredibly tragic way to die. However, despite this official conclusion, many people still suspect the parents, with some believing they may have been involved. This suspicion is not only based on what was seen on his channel, but also on the behavior of Harley's father. While authorities were actively searching for Harley, his father reportedly bragged about how much media attention the case was receiving. He also told co-workers that he planned to take out a life insurance policy on Harley just 1 week after he went missing and 2 weeks before his body was discovered. When describing his relationship with his son, Marcus referred to it as strained, stating, "We know each other, and there's a relationship there. He knows I'm his dad, and he's my son. But the relationship is rocky." Honestly, it's unusual to hear a parent speak that way about their own child, especially while that child is missing, which is why many people have raised concerns. Combined with the unsettling clues found on his channel and other inconsistencies throughout the case, there are still many unanswered questions, though going through all of them would require a full documentary. In the end, however, there is no concrete physical evidence proving this was anything other than a tragic accident, likely influenced by Harley's autism and his difficult relationship with his parents, a combination that may have led him to run away and ultimately resulted in his death. Looking back at his channel, it's eerie how it seems to subtly foreshadow what would happen. Yet those warning signs were hidden within a channel that otherwise appeared completely normal. Valentine's with Lindsay. On the surface, Lindsay Suvanarath seemed like your typical gaming YouTuber. On her channel, she uploaded a full Let's Play series of the game Never End, complete with her own commentary layered over the gameplay.
That guy's not supposed to be up there. He's supposed to be from the well, if you remember. And that bucket is definitely not supposed to be bouncing off the roof of that well.
While this might sound completely normal, especially if you've ever had or followed a gaming channel yourself, Lindsay as a person was far from ordinary. She was born in Iowa and, according to reports, was half white and half Asian. Growing up in a predominantly white community, she faced heavy bullying because of her mixed race, something that deeply impacted her confidence and ability to connect with others. That said, this information mainly comes from her parents, who also claimed she wasn't capable of violence, so it should be taken with some caution. Regardless, bullied or not, Lindsay was largely isolated throughout her school years, having little to no friends. She performed well academically, but that success only seemed to push her further away from her peers. Her achievements, combined with her social isolation, made her an easy target for continued bullying. As the internet became a bigger part of everyday life, Lindsay began turning to online spaces as a form of escape, seeking the validation she wasn't receiving in real life. By the age of 14, she had become an active moderator on a website called Twilight Sucks. where she went by the username Blonde Guardian. Her time there eventually came to an end due to ideological conflicts, particularly because she openly supported the views of a certain Austrian wartime leader who ruled Germany in the 1940s, which made it difficult for her to interact respectfully with others, as it became one of her main talking points. As she spent more time online, Lindsay joined DeviantArt, where she used the platform to vent about her experiences with bullying and express increasingly extreme beliefs, including white supremacist views, despite being half Asian herself. During this period, she openly praised figures such as David Duke, one of the most well-known members of the KKK. Over on Tumblr, she ran a niche blog called School Shooter Chic, where she posted photos of herself, along with images she found interesting, like pictures of David Lynch. But more notably, she engaged with communities that romanticized tragic events such as Columbine and its perpetrators. Moving to college seemed like it could have been a fresh start. She enrolled in a small liberal arts college in Iowa, hoping things would be different. While the direct bullying from her earlier years decreased, she still struggled to form meaningful connections and continued to feel like an outsider. At the same time, the positive attention she received online, especially regarding her appearance, only reinforced her mindset and pushed her deeper into these harmful online communities. Things began to escalate further when Lindsay met James Gamble online. The two quickly bonded over shared interests, including Columbine and extremist ideology. Their connection deepened rapidly, fueled by their shared sense of alienation, Lindsay in Iowa and James in Canada. What started as an online relationship quickly became something more intense, resembling a mutual radicalization, where each person reinforced and amplified the other's beliefs, pushing things further and further. Eventually, they were joined by James's high school friend, Randall Shepard, and together, they began forming a plan. At first, it was just discussions about making an impact similar to Columbine, something they were disturbingly fascinated by. Over time, however, these conversations shifted into actual planning. Lindsay and James chose a public mall in Halifax, Nova Scotia as their target, intentionally selecting Valentine's Day to maximize attention and media coverage. James, being in Canada and having access to weapons, took responsibility for acquiring firearms and ammunition. He also worked out the logistics, including entry points, possible escape routes, and timing to cause the most harm. Lindsay focused more on the symbolic side of the attack. She suggested wearing trench coats, similar to the Columbine shooters, to create a recognizable image. She also discussed creating a manifesto to explain their motives and beliefs, intending for it to be released online after the attack. At its core, it was about gaining the recognition and validation she had been seeking for so long. As their planning continued, their conversations became a loop of reinforcement, each encouraging the other and strengthening their commitment. They believed their actions would bring them notoriety and validate their worldview. In the weeks leading up to the planned date, they finalized the details. Lindsay used her savings to buy a plane ticket to Canada and packed a suitcase with items related to the attack, including clothing and parts of her intended disguise. James prepared the weapons and continued scouting the mall, organizing how everything would unfold. He also planned to pick Lindsay up from the airport and coordinate the sequence of events after her arrival. At some point, it was decided that the plan would also involve James killing his own parents before carrying out the attack. As the date approached, both Lindsay and James experienced a mix of emotions. Lindsay seemed to feel empowered, as if she was about to turn years of feeling powerless into something significant. This is reflected in the cryptic hints she posted on her Tumblr page, seemingly trying to impress the same online communities she had immersed herself in. James, on the other hand, began to show signs of nervousness as the reality of what they were planning started to set in. The exact sequence of events leading up to the intervention isn't entirely clear, but what is known is that an anonymous tip was sent to authorities regarding suspicious online activity linked to James Gamble, including discussions of violence and images of firearms. This prompted Canadian authorities to launch a discreet investigation. Some believe the tip may have come from James himself as the pressure built, though it's just as possible that one of them spoke too openly about their plans. Authorities placed James under surveillance, monitoring his communications and movements, eventually gathering enough evidence to confirm the threat. As police moved in to arrest him at his home, James became aware of their presence. Faced with the likelihood of arrest and the collapse of their plan, he chose to take his own life just as officers were closing in. At that same time, Lindsay was already on her flight to Canada, with Randall waiting for her at the airport. When she landed and went through customs, both Lindsay and Randall were arrested, unaware that James had died and believing their plan was still in motion. In November 2016, Randall Shepard appeared in the Nova Scotia Supreme Court, where he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to between 7 and 10 years, with the possibility of a reduced sentence for good behavior and participation in mental health treatment. Because his role was seen as less direct, more of a follower than a planner, his sentence was lighter. Lindsay, however, received a life sentence on April 20th, 2018, a date that coincides with both Adolf Hitler's birthday and the anniversary of Columbine, an unsettling coincidence. To this day, remnants of her YouTube channel still exist, with occasional comments from individuals who continue to support her and call for her release. Justin Mohn. This is the head of Mike Mohn, a federal employee of 20 years, and my father. These were some of the chilling words spoken by Justin Mohn in a YouTube video that would later be used as evidence in his conviction for both the murder and desecration of his own father. Justin Mohn was born and raised in Levittown, just outside of Philadelphia. Growing up, he was described as a lively and personable young man. After graduating high school in 2010, where he was voted class clown, he was known for being social and involved, particularly in sports like football. Academically, he also performed well, making the honor roll, and those who knew him at the time remember him as someone who was enjoyable to be around. All of this makes his eventual actions even more difficult to comprehend. In 2014, Justin graduated from Penn State University with a degree in agribusiness management. Around this time, however, people began to notice changes in his personality. Friends and neighbors would later describe a clear shift in his behavior after high school, something that only became more pronounced during his college years. After completing his degree, Justin moved to Colorado Springs in 2016, where he lived with a roommate named Davis. According to Davis, Justin's behavior became increasingly unstable, including an incident where he severely damaged their apartment during what he described as a blackout caused by an undiagnosed mental condition. This event ultimately led Davis to move out and report Justin to the property manager. During his time in Colorado, Justin began expressing paranoid ideas, particularly the belief that the government was targeting him. His social life declined significantly, with very little contact from others aside from occasional visits from his father, Michael Mohn, a retired civil engineer who had worked with the Army Corps of Engineers. Online, Justin created an elaborate identity for himself. He claimed to be a musician, a producer, and the author of multiple books. He also described himself as the leader of a nationwide militia network, and even went as far as to claim he was the acting president of the United States. In some instances, he portrayed himself as a messianic figure. Justin did publish several books, which offer insight into his mindset. His writings ranged from political manifestos to dark, apocalyptic fiction. One of his earlier works, released in 2017 titled "I Am the Revolution: Leader's Survival Guide," criticized the education system and societal structures, arguing that they suppress individual creativity. In it, he included a letter he claimed to have sent to then-President Donald Trump, warning of a peaceful revolution he intended to lead if changes were not made. He described the world as being at a crossroads, facing either a future of peace and advancement or a descent into conflict and societal collapse. He also wrote about his personal struggles, including negative experiences in school, issues with student debt, and difficulty maintaining employment, which ultimately forced him to move back in with his parents. In another work, America's Coming Bloody Revolution, Justin argued that violent uprising was not only inevitable, but necessary. He claimed that large portions of society were traitors, and even suggested that people born before 1991 should be eliminated. Alarmingly, he also hinted at the idea of targeting his own family as part of this so-called revolution. Alongside his writing, Justin also released several music projects. One album from 2019, titled Justin Stalkers, contains a track that stands out in particular. In the song, he presents a conversation with a distorted version of his mother, expressing frustration about living at home, while the voice of his mother tells him to abandon his ambitions of becoming a successful artist and instead focus on paying off his debts.
I said, if you don't live the life I want, you're sure to end up dead. But I don't want to live here, I want to sing and dance. If I don't move out, I might miss my only chance. Just stay at home, pay off your debt, you'll never get famous. You've never even been to LA or Las Vegas. But I don't want to live at home forever.
Later in the same track, he shifts to addressing his father, accusing him of being jealous and resentful of his supposed success, even claiming that his father had disowned him, despite the fact that his father was one of the few people who continued to visit him during his time in isolation. Justin's growing distrust of the government led him to file multiple lawsuits against major institutions, including the U.S. Department of Education and the Attorney General. He represented himself in these cases, all of which were dismissed. The financial compensation he sought, often amounting to millions of dollars, may seem like an attempt to gain money, but it more likely reflects a further detachment from reality. Justin's only widely circulated YouTube video would become central to the case against him. On January 30th, 2024, he uploaded a 14-minute video that began with him displaying his father's severed head inside a plastic bag. He then proceeded to read a manifesto he had written. In it, he accused his father of betraying the United States, using him as a symbol of what he believed to be a corrupt federal system at war with its own citizens. He claimed that his father would be sent to the deepest levels of hell, specifically reserved for those who betray their loved ones. Despite the horrific nature of the video, his tone remained calm and methodical, as if he had rehearsed what he was saying multiple times. The primary purpose of the video appeared to be a call to action, urging former military and National Guard members to join his cause, while also threatening those who opposed or misrepresented him. He framed himself as a revolutionary leader, referencing something he called the Mohn militia, a group that appeared to exist only in his own imagination. He believed that the U.S. government, along with anyone associated with it, including his own father, was actively working against the American people and deserved to be punished. After uploading the video, Justin fled in his father's car. However, he made the critical mistake of bringing his phone with him, which allowed authorities to track his location. He was eventually found near a military facility where he claimed he was attempting to rally the National Guard to support his cause. The video remained online for several hours before being taken down, but not before it had already gained thousands of views, been widely shared, and re-uploaded across the internet. Cronin. Now, unlike most of the cases I've actively searched for, this one is something I actually came across randomly a long time ago. Reapps is a YouTuber with a long-standing presence on the platform, essentially one of the early commentary creators, known for making videos discussing various topics, often centered around YouTube drama. On October 22, 2015, Reapps uploaded a video that was very out of the ordinary.
Okay, so this is a weird video that I'm making here. The reason that it's titled Sweden Subscriber Killer is because it was recently brought to my attention as of today there was a potential killing in Sweden at a school, and the two people who he harmed and put in the hospital currently right now in critical condition was a subscriber of mine and the Amazing Atheists and quite a few different people. I'm going to link...
What Reapps mentioned there is only partially accurate. Hip Hop Destroyer 666 was the channel of Anton Lunden Pedersen, and he was indeed subscribed to creators like Reapps and the Amazing Atheist, among others. Anton Lunden Pedersen was born and raised in Trollhättan, Sweden, and grew up in what was described as a relatively stable and normal environment. Former classmates recalled him as someone who often kept to himself, living in his own world. He was known for wearing mostly black clothing and generally being quite isolated. It's not entirely clear when things began to shift, but over time, Anton developed strong anti-immigration views. He felt increasingly marginalized in his own country, a belief that was further reinforced by his inability to find stable work after finishing school. He blamed immigrants for taking jobs that he believed should have gone to native Swedes. As his struggles with unemployment continued, his frustration grew, and he became more resentful of the demographic changes happening in his town, which had seen an increase in migrants from regions such as Africa and the Middle East. A turning point for Anton appears to have been when he finally secured a position as an apprentice at a local machinery company, only to be dismissed a few months later. This experience seemed to deepen his sense of injustice, reinforcing his belief that society was favoring immigrants over native citizens. As his mindset became more extreme, he spent more time on online forums and social media groups that echoed and reinforced his views. These spaces didn't just validate his beliefs, they intensified them, providing a sense of community among people who shared similar perspectives. On October 22, 2015, the same day Riaps uploaded that video, Anton carried out an attack at Cronin School, a high school he had deliberately chosen because of its relatively high immigrant population. He entered the building wearing a costume that resembled something like Darth Vader, including a black cape, a paintball mask, a sword, and a German-style combat helmet. At first, some people believed he was simply dressed up early for Halloween. Once inside, armed with the sword, he encountered 20-year-old teaching assistant Lavan Eskandar and immediately attacked him, resulting in his death. Continuing through the school, Anton then attacked 15-year-old Ahmed Hassan, a Somali student, who later died from his injuries in the hospital. During the attack, he came across 2 other students, but did not harm them. The students, thinking his outfit looked interesting, even took a photo with him, unaware of what had already happened. Disturbingly, his weapon was still covered in blood as he posed for that picture. Investigators later suggested that he may have spared them because they were female. As he moved further through the school, Anton encountered 42-year-old Nazir Amso and attacked him as well. Nazir later died from his injuries. By this point, police had arrived at the scene. Still armed, Anton charged toward the officers and was shot and killed. Anton Lunden Pettersson had no prior criminal record, and in the aftermath, authorities concluded that the attack was racially motivated. Evidence, including CCTV footage, suggested that he deliberately targeted victims based on their ethnicity. At the same time, it appeared that he avoided harming very young children and women, regardless of their background. The attack carried out by Anton Lunden Pettersson remains the deadliest school attack in Sweden's history. That's all for today, folks. If you want to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.